most owners are working in the business, not on the business. AI is rapidly evolving, right? Like we've seen it change so fast. And I would say AI is a tool, it's not a crutch, right? And there's so many different tools that one easy one for me that shouldn't even interrupt their day to day right now is just take an hour out of your week, not a day, just start with an hour out of your week and work on your business, as I mentioned earlier, not in your business. And I think you'll find some maybe hiccups or things that you need to change.
Welcome back to Restoration Insider, the show built for restoration business owners who want to grow smarter, compete harder, and build something that lasts. Today we have Kayla McGowan here and Scott Sandell. Kayla McGowan is the editor-in-chief of Restoration and Remediation magazine, better known in the industry as R&R. With over 10 years of experience in marketing and communications within the industry restoration and cleaning world, she leads the full editorial strategy for one of the most respected publications in our industry. She also plays a key role in shaping R&R industry events through the experience event conference programming. So she's not just an editor looking in from the outside. Kayla has ISCRC certifications and a deep knowledge of the industry. Today, we're going to be talking about what restoration companies need to know to stay visible, relevant, and competitive in this industry. Kayla, welcome to the Restoration Insider Podcast. Scott, please take it away.
Thank you, Wanjour. Appreciate that. Kayla, awesome to have you on here. Thank you for being here.
You're so welcome. Thank you for putting me in the interviewee seat instead of being the
Yes.
interviewers. It's nice change for me.
Good. Well, I hope you enjoy this. Honestly, it's a privilege for me to be able to do this. Excited because R&R really has been one of the most trusted voices in the restoration industry. And as the editor, you have a unique perspective. You've seen businesses go from starting in their garage to really large scale operations. And really after being exposed to all these restoration companies, what are some of the patterns that you see are consistent that owners are probably maybe a little too heads down to notice about their operation?
Gosh, this is such a great question. And really, I think there's so many different ways I can take this, but one that really stands out to me the most is that most owners are working in the business, not on the business, which is understandable, especially when you're the owner operator, right? You can't help but work in the business and not on the business. But you can't neglect that step of just refreshing your mind and looking at what you can improve in your business and actually working on the business. The
Yes.
market has most certainly changed, right? It's no secret. The market has changed, and I've recently heard the term we need to be a little bit more retail mindset, if you will, which means we have to become attractive to our customer. And that starts with our brand, reputation, and customer service. And if you're too busy working in the business and not on the business, you neglect those aspects that are so important to be attractive to your customers. So, we do have to remember that we have so much to offer to our customers. We just need to start showing it a little bit better, right?
100%. And you nailed something right there is working on your business rather than in your business. And I'm so glad to hear you echo that. And they're probably just like you and I are both doing. If anybody's listening and they're in the business right now, they're nodding their head because they know it. But knowing it and really being in a position to do that are two different things. And so your Women in Restoration podcast series has resonated far beyond just the women. Wonderful conversations you've had with founders, operators, rising leaders in this industry. From those conversations, what are some of the approaches or mindsets you're seeing from these leaders that you think every restoration business owner, regardless of background, can learn something from?
Gosh, this is such a good question. And I'll start with this series, right? Because it was so fun. It was such an opportunity to talk to women at all different aspects of their career and their life. And some were in the business for a really long time, some were still pretty new. I most certainly will be doing that again because I did learn so much. So before I dive into the meat and potatoes, I
Yes.
just want to say that the ladies that came on really brought so much grit and heart and inspiration. And I walked away from every episode learning more and more about our industry and the people that we are around. So, I
Good.
will say it's just one of those things you don't know it all. And it gave me a really cool perspective that you should always be yourself. That was a common theme. Be yourself, use your strong skills, right? And leverage the
Right.
people around you that have strong skills in areas that you may not be so strong, right? Ask questions, embrace our industry for the good, the bad, and the ugly, which we both have seen, right? Good, bad, and
Yes.
ugly. And
100%.
so, here's what I would say is Stacy Sargent with RMS said this to me on our podcast, and she said, "You have to understand your why." And I really think that's a big part of this question. You have to understand the why behind what you're doing, regardless of what your background is, how long you've been in the industry, and even what your end goals are. If you don't know what your why is, you can't ever reach those goals efficiently and effectively. So I would definitely say that the mindset definitely has shifted to people first mentality as well, which is much needed in the world that we live in. We're always in grind mode, we're always in chaos. And in order for us to have a well-oiled machine, we have to take care of our people, and then our processes will fall into place nicely, right? So I would just say that emotional intelligence is at an all-time high and it'll continue to win. So that's kind of what I have to say. I mean, this
Agreed.
all leads to the success of the business, right? But those are the things that really just stuck out to me because it wasn't even about money. It was more about your personality, your culture, your team, your why, and all of that other stuff will follow later down the road.
100%. That is a great response. And I want to key in on, what you highlighted there about you have to find your why. The why fuels everything you do in the business. And without that, you're really just going through the motions and missing the opportunity to help your team also understand, hey, here's why I'm doing this and here's where the business is going. So definitely appreciate that response for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure. And I would say just to add one more thing too is if you don't understand your why, your team won't be able to. So they can't,
yes,
you're only successful if your team is on board and bought in, right? So it does start with you as a leader to determine and explain that why. Of course, everybody's why is going to be a little different, but
always.
that's what makes the business go around.
It is, and it keeps it unique. Shifting gears a little bit, this May is Hurricane Preparedness Month, and you and I have talked about this before, but it seems like every year, all the news agencies talk about, oh, this is going to be a massive year for hurricanes, but we really haven't seen much over the last few years, but. I think our restoration business owners need to be prepared. So when we're thinking about that, what is the gap you see most often between owners who think they're prepared from the ones who actually are when the storm hits?
Oh gosh, another great question. You really gave me some hard ones, but I will definitely say to your point, what you just said, I'll echo it again, is, every year we hear like, oh, this is going to be the year, we're going to see so much activity. And last year was the first year that we did not see one hurricane hit our
Correct.
beautiful
No-
United States, right?
Nothing.
Not one. There was activity, obviously, Jamaica was hit, unfortunately, and they did have to use some of our resources. But I think in those moments, we weren't prepared to not see a hurricane, right? And so we at R&R did follow, NOAA's Hurricane Preparedness Month, and we wanted to prepare contractors. So I can go in several directions here,
Oh,
but there
yes.
are a few things that definitely come to mind for sure. I would say, our industry does lead with a servant heart, especially after a cat event, right? Because people are just in a state of chaos, confusion, and hurt, right? They're hurt. So I would definitely say the obvious ones that definitely stick out to me are like communication and process, which are so crucial to your everyday date, like everyday business. But for the times we're responding to hurricanes in particular, we have to remember people don't have power. They may not have email. They may not have cell service. So that verbal communication is so crucial, even if it's just asking people how they are. I think that that goes a long way. So in that, I would say the common mistakes that have been made are people purchasing a ton of equipment, thinking that they're going to have, you know, the use of
Yes.
it, but then they don't have any strategy of how they're going to use it or
Right.
if they're going to sub it out when they don't use it, which means they're losing money every day. And then I've heard about labor strategies, which is great for you guys over at Karma Staff, but you
Yes.
know, we tend to think of, oh, when we get there, we'll figure it out, but we can't. Those are key parts of the business and your operations that will break down and you will fail. I will say a third piece of that is, having a great relationship with your network, which includes your vendors, your suppliers, and even your competitors, because at the end of the day,
Correct.
resources are limited and you're going to need help. So I did mention Hurricane Preparedness Month at the beginning of my little answer here, but of course, shameless plug, I will say we are covering it for those reasons, right?
Right.
Because we have seen time and time again that we do fail at certain parts, and the people who are well prepared succeed, and those who don't ultimately fail. And nobody wants to talk about their failures, right? So we gave the
No.
industry an opportunity to kind of share some pain points. And we will cover additional topics through the remainder of the year, and we will do Hurricane Preparedness Month again next year.
Good.
But we just constantly have to learn, right? I think no one has all the answers. If I'm being quite honest, you're going to have little ebbs and flows when you're responding. But if we can help the industry understand the right way to do things, we help alleviate some of the negative thoughts on the restoration contractor that consumers tend to get when you have those storm chasers and things like that.
Oh yeah. No, wonderful advice. And you and I could probably do an entire podcast just on this. And you gave some wonderful advice there. And I will echo that as well, that it has to start with a plan. And it's not just like you said, hey, I've got a bunch of equipment. We're going to go down there and see what happens. There's so many factors to consider, so many different variables and partners to lean on. So build your network. That's great. Build your vendor list, but also create that plan. And I know you guys have some wonderful resources to help those owners who are considering that do this and do it well. So thank you for that. Um, so pivoting again, we both just came back from the RIA convention, and I think we'll agree it was a wonderful conference, a lot of information, so many amazing leaders in that room, and you had an opportunity, probably more so than I did, to really interact with them, have some deep discussions about where this industry is and where it's heading. But what does being in that room feel like from your perspective? And for the owners who couldn't make it this year, what conversations or themes do they generally need to be aware of heading into the rest of the year?
Gosh, good question. It was a great event. Obviously, we didn't really see each other. That's how crazy it was, right? The energy was high as always. Gosh, and there were so many topics that were talked about, from customer service and technology. And of course, AI was talked about. That's one of
Oh,
the things
yes.
that we're continuously talking about. But one thing I really enjoy about the RIA event in a whole is the opportunity to network. I feel like that is the one place that everyone is there to share their thoughts and ideas and where they think the industry is going. So I will definitely say, some additional things that were covered outside of, where the industry is going was, the importance of safety and compliance. There was an asbestos panel that was very informative. RIA just released an asbestos refresher course that is for restorers, built by restorers. There
Great.
was a topic of understanding T&M, which I know is very foreign to the regular residential work that we do, but it is an emerging topic or theme going into the new year, if you will. And of course, the relationship between the carrier and the contractor, always a topic of conversation there. And they have a carrier task force that they're working on to create better relationships and rapport between the contractor and the carrier. It's no
Yes.
secret that it's not the same, right? It's been an ever-changing relationship through the years. But I would say if anybody listening missed out, this is an opportunity for you to meet people in all different types of, gosh, professions. It's not just restorers. There's marketers there. There's agencies. There's consultants. There's an array of people there. And then, of course, you did have some insurance carriers there as well. So the
Sure.
opportunities are endless there. And if you did miss it this year, there's still a couple of events going on this year. I know CORE is happening in August, and we're hosting our show, The Experience, at the Paris Hotel and Casino, September 9th through the 11th, which you will see some members of the RIA there as well. well. So there's
Good.
opportunities to still connect with, RIA. And if you missed it, next year, RIA is taking place in Phoenix, and I sit on their marketing task force, so I am really well connected. And I would be, so selfish if I didn't mention that, if I'm being quite honest. There's so many great events, and if you're thinking about attending any, I named a few that would be really great for people to attend.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And great advice on some of the upcoming things that if you're in the restoration industry, you really need to be a part of so you understand, hey, where the industry is, where it's going. And I will echo what you said. If you haven't been a part of the RIA conference, you should consider that for next year. And also the experience. We are planning to be there as well. So we'll talk about that more a little bit later off camera. But and you've given some great perspective here from what you see day to day. And you did mention AI, so we're gonna open that can of worms just a little bit. I know that's always been a topic but from just an AI perspective, what is it that you believe that restoration owners need to be paying attention to in that area right now?
Ooh, such a good question because AI is rapidly evolving, right? Like we've seen it change so fast. And I would say AI is a tool, it's not a crutch, right? And there's so many different tools that have AI in them. Some tools say they have AI in them and they don't. So you
Right.
need to really pay attention, do your homework. I think with our industry, and you've probably seen this quite a bit to yourself, Scott, is we see something and we're like, ooh, shiny object, let's pay for it and then never use it. And so
Right.
what I would say and suggest is, hey, take your time, do some demos, ask people in your network what they think about that. Before you go off and spend a good portion of your budget potentially on something that you don't even utilize. That would be my advice personally.
Good.
Technology, we need to adopt it, right? It's part of the business, but it's not the entire business. So that would be my little spiel on that. We all use AI day to day. I use it
Yes.
myself every single day. And most people I know in this space use it every day, and we all utilize it differently. So that's why I say, tap into your network, ask them how they're using it. And if there's a compliance thing though too. I would also say not all AI tools are compliant, like SOC 2 compliant and things like that. So, definitely do your homework before you're just like, oh, everybody's doing AI. I need to add it to my business. Like, it's okay
Right.
to take your time, but you will need it in your business at some point because it's designed to help take those tedious tasks that we do daily and simplify them for us so we can focus on some other parts of our business.
Absolutely. Great information on that. And one thing that I will add is really understand what you believe you want to use it for in your business. And then find those tools that are probably the best for you. But yeah, there are so many options out there. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to know and understand what you actually need. That's great stuff. So really, as we're coming to a close on this podcast, so there may be a restoration owner right now, whether they're in a network already or they're independent, but they're still, that owner is still on the truck and they're thinking, man, I know there are so many things that I need to do to grow my business. And really based on everything that you've seen and those leaders you've connected with, what is the one thing that you would tell that owner is on the truck right now that they can begin doing this week to make that change in their business?
Gosh, this is a great question. I think you saved the best for last, if I'm
Sure.
being quite honest, selfishly. Oh, I would say again, no surprise. I think there's a few answers here, but one easy one for me that shouldn't even interrupt their day to day right now is just take an hour out of your week, not a day, just start with an hour out of your week and work on your business, as I mentioned earlier, not in your
Yes.
business. And I think you'll find some maybe hiccups or things that you need to change. The next thing I would say is the following week, take another hour. It doesn't have to be an hour a day, but just dedicate an hour sometime in that week and take a moment to write out a process that lives in your head because we have to remember that the goal is to eventually hire somebody, right? So why not get
Yes.
ahead and put the processes down into clear SOPs? And they don't all have to happen at once. Just take one of your processes and go from there because then it'll be super easy after that. You'll find your format and all of that. Um, Another point that I would like to make is it's okay to say no. I think oftentimes the owner operator thinks that they have to say yes to everything, but sometimes the best decision for you and your business is turning down what you think is an opportunity, but could ultimately put your business at risk. And I talk about this quite frequently. No is a good answer for your business. It
Yes.
might be painful, but pass it off to somebody else who you think it might be better for because why would you risk all of your success on something just because of money or something like that? At the end of the day, you have a reputation that you need to protect. Last but certainly not least, show yourself a little grace, but also be your biggest critic because I think that does sound hard, but it's extremely important because you're okay being critical of yourself and also patting yourself on the back, right, in private. So you will see the best and worst in yourself. So why not use that to your advantage? I'm not saying nitpick yourself on everything, but reflect on the things that you could do better in and just implement those over time. I know I gave quite a few, but I think I gave everybody an
Great.
hour for the next month to work
Yes.
on something different every week because that's where we grow. That's how we thrive. And an hour may seem, oh my gosh, that's an hour I could be doing something else. But that hour every week over time will pay off for your business in the way that it grows.
100%. Wonderful response. And I know you probably could have given several more, but I think you wrapped it up very nicely. Kayla, thank you so much. Your wisdom in the industry and your insight, very valuable. Really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you again for being a part of our podcast today.
Yes, thank you for having me. And we'll have to put you in the interviewee seat over here at Ask the Expert.
Happy anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonjour.
Yes, yes. All right, doing outro time. Kayla, thank you so much for your time today. And if you are in the restoration space and not already reading R&R magazine, go check it out at rnrmagonline.com. It's a great resource for staying sharp in the industry. Links will be in the show notes. And if you're a restoration business owner looking to grow your team, Restoration Insider is brought to you by Karma Staff. Karma Staff specializes in providing skilled remote employees specifically for the restoration industry. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Kayla, so much. This has been Restoration Insider, and we'll catch you on the next one.